I ruined a Pokemon tournament. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Why would I do this? I love Pokemon. All I want is for the game to keep growing and everyone to have a great time playing it. Well, to be completely honest, I thought it'd be funny. See, when I go to tournaments, I play a lot of decks that some people would consider annoying, immoral, or straight up inhumane. I swear, I'm not evil. I just have a ton of fun winning in obscure ways. I mean, my first regionals win was with Frostmoth Articuno Paralysis Lock. My opponents literally just sat there and watched me play solitaire for 30 minutes every round. But I'm just one man. Throughout the course of an entire tournament, even if I were to play every single round and win the whole thing, I can only ruin so many people's days. If I wanted to destroy the fun for an entire room of players, I need some serious backup. Introducing a whole bunch of my mates who have never touched Pokemon cards. Originally, this concept was conceived as something much more wholesome. I wanted to teach them all how to play and compete in the Pokemon TCG. A really sweet idea, a great way to grow the community and just share the game that I love. But as you'll see,
my motives may have shifted a little bit.
Alright, if I'm going to teach them how to play, they'll need decks. And obviously, they didn't own any cards. So I would need to provide each of them with a full 60 card list. This is where the first problem came up. How was I going to build 12 copies of the same deck? There aren't that many stores I can just walk into and buy 48 gold Engos. And even if I could, YouTube does not pay anywhere near enough for me to do that without selling a kidney. Please subscribe. So for the sake of my wallet, I had to put a limitation in place. They would not be playing with any Pokemon EX. No Gardevoir, no Dragapult, no Charizard, and not even any support Pokemon like Squawkabilly, Fezandipiti, or Latias. This does not leave me with an abundance of choices. I mean, I could try building options like Frostlass Munkidori, Slowking, Okidogi, Roaring Moon, or Conkeldurr, but I'd be forced into surgically removing key pieces like Blood Moon Ursaluna EX and Fezandipiti EX. The decks just don't feel fully functional without them. In the end, the main options I was left to choose between that could still reach their full potential without any 2-prize Pokemon were Festival Leads, Great Tusk Mill, and Feraligatr. I tried each of them out for myself first. This wasn't just to help me decide though. It was also because I was going to need to put my coaching skills to the test and teach all of my mates not only how to play the deck, but how to play the TCG from scratch. Festival Leads was solid. The deck's game plan was nice and linear. It was pretty enjoyable to play, and the little fellas are all really cute. But it was lacking something. Filling a tournament with 40 HP grass Pokemon just wasn't funny enough for my liking. Next up was Great Tusk Mill, and it was definitely funny, but it had a couple of key issues. First of all, I just wasn't able to win enough games to confidently hand it over to everyone. Like, I know they're probably not going to be winning the whole tournament, but I want them to at least feel like they have a shot. And the second problem was the win condition. Sure, no matter which deck I pick, without the inclusion of any EX cards, they were probably going to be playing something pretty unconventional. But I wanted to have them learn the game on a deck that can at least attack and deal some damage. And then, as soon as I tried Feraligatr, I knew it was the perfect deck. Not only was I winning games and even local tournaments, I was constantly finding a variety of creative lines utilizing the deck's wide arsenal of options. I was having a ton of fun, and my opponents absolutely were not. This deck was a complete nightmare to play against. With retreat locking from Totodile's Big Bite, a built-in hit and run mode using Croconaur's Reverse Thrust paired with Mimikyu, and the ability to spread damage everywhere thanks to Feraligator's Torrential Heart and Munkidori's Adrenabrain, an incredible bundle of one-sided joy. And when I was playing in one of those local events, testing out the deck, I was enjoying absolutely crushing the spirits of an Ends Zoroark player, as they were faced with an unkillable Mimikyu while I slowly chipped away at their bench with Feraligatr and Munkidori. It was in that moment that I realized my initial idea had evolved. It was no longer just about introducing my mates to a game that I love. Now I was trading up an army in preparation to ruin an entire tournament. I settled on 2 variations of the Feraligatr deck, and these fellas weren't going to be the first batch of guinea pigs. I made sure to personally test both of the 60s at locals first, and I'm happy to say they each successfully passed the vibe check. Here are the two lists. One utilizes Precious Trolley, while the other incorporates a personal favorite of mine, Grand Tree. But regardless of the A-spec, each is fully focused on sucking the fun out of an opponent's day. With the deck choices locked in and all the fellas set up and grinding on TCG Live, the next step was something I'd been absolutely dreading. Actually sourcing all of these physical cards. Some of these weren't too bad. I mean, I own Water Energies and Dark Energies. That's a start. I was going to need to call in some favors. Justin, who opens way more prize packs than anyone in their right mind ever should, supplied a lot of the supporters, Pokemon, and all of these Luminous Energies. Most of his cards also came with a nice little Play Pokemon stamp. Shout out to James and Stasis Collectibles, coming in clutch with some of the harder to find staples like Countercatcher, Monkey Dory, and Crispin, and my goat, Angus Johnson, who let me borrow a whole bunch of blinged out Pokegears because apparently this card just never gets printed as bulk. But still, there was one individual card that continued to elude me. No one seemed to have more than a single copy of it to spare, and you'll never guess which one it was. Crocodile. I have no idea why they were so hard to find. There's got to be some kind of conspiracy where a rich billionaire is holding a monopoly on the Crocodile market. Anyway, after visiting like 5 different local game stores and placing 3 separate eBay orders, I was eventually able to accumulate just enough Crocs for all the fellas to have 3 each. Sometimes you gotta just bite the bullet and pay for 30 or so overpriced bulk cards. But you can at least help me out by subscribing so I can financially recover from the damage all these stage 1 Crocs did. Now, with a mountain of cardboard at my disposal, it was time to sleeve up the decks. We assembled a production line and got to work. Shout out to Dragon Shield for helping out with this and supplying everyone with some sleek shuffling sleeves for their very first event. Finally, armed with 12 deadly Feraligatr decks, it was time to pick our target. There are so many different levels of competition, ranging from weekly local league events, which might be a little too casual for this, all the way to regional and international level tournaments, which would be a bit too much. For now. So I settled on taking them all to a League Cup. It'd be perfect for this. It's a bit of a middle ground. There should be a ton of players. Everyone still wants to win, which is great because it means there's something on the line for our opponents and they'll be even more frustrated after losing to this monstrosity. But no one is taking it that seriously, so it'll be a nice environment for everyone's first event. And one last thing. Before we headed over for the big day, I made sure to print out all the deck lists. My wrists would not survive writing them all by hand. We tried to get there nice and early to make sure everyone was all sorted and have a quick little pep talk. But before you could say Torrential Heart, Adrenabrain, Giant Wave, Shake My Hand, round 1 was already underway. Just look at this beautiful line of tables, completely swamped by Gators. It brings a tear to my eye. We've got Feraligatr versus Dragapult, Feraligatr versus Gardevoir, Feraligatr versus Dragapult again, Feraligatr versus Dragapult Dusknoir. It's so incredible for me to see this all come together. There were some triumphant wins, especially with half the Gator gang starting out with a dub. Just look at these smiles after battling for their first ever Pokemon TCG victories. And this poor bloke was just handing them out for free. He had to play against like 3 back-to-back Gators while on End Zoroark, which is practically an auto loss for him. Imagine sitting through 3 hours of unwinnable games. Props to him for not just leaving the event early and going home. Obviously, there were a lot of losses as well. I mean, it was everyone's first tournament. What do you expect? And with those losses came some absolutely massive throws. I feel like this is a bit of a universal experience for anyone learning any new game. You're so focused on one aspect that you completely forget about one of the fundamentals. Connor here forgot that he needs an energy to actually attack with Feraligatr. But for me, by far the greatest highlight of the event was absolutely ruining this one judge's day. You see, at some point, it's inevitable. Regardless of if they're winning or losing, eventually, the Gators will begin to cannibalize themselves. And in this fateful round, an immovable object hit another removable object. This poor judge just had to sit there and watch a Feraligatr Ditto that went on for way longer than any game ever should. There were at least 10 consecutive turns of big bite lock on either side. Combine this with both pilots being at their very first tournament and you get an incredibly climactic conclusion. After 50 minutes of thrilling gameplay and 2 additional turns each, they ask the judge a very simple question. What happens if we didn't finish game 1? Yep, that's right. It was a 0-0 tie. I think the judge actually lost his mind. Unfortunately, after Swiss rounds concluded, the Gators had gone extinct. None strong enough to push through into the top cut. But it's hard to expect that from a group of players at their very first event running an off-meta deck. However, it wouldn't be their last chance. See, this was just the beginning. Just a League Cup. Absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. For the next mission, I was taking my army to a regional championship. You are not gonna want to miss that video. In the end, I don't think we really ruined anyone's day. Okay, maybe a couple of people's. But we did all have a great time. And it was genuinely wholesome to introduce my friends to a game that's so important to me, giving them an opportunity to attend a local event when they otherwise may have never even given it a shot. And if you're watching this right now and have never actually played the Pokemon TCG in person, seriously, give it a crack. You will not regret it. Oh, and of course, we capped things off with everyone's favorite activity to do at a Pokemon tournament, ripping a whole bunch of packs together. I am so keen for these guys to play at the regionals. I'll catch you in the next one. Really hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to support me even more, feel free to become a channel member. Or if you don't want to give YouTube any money, I've also got a Patreon. Cheers.